Good morning and or good afternoon or evening. And I'm glad to have you back joining me today for our Monday weekly discourse on various topics of the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Today, I'd like to follow up on a topic that I spoke to just recently, and that was the topic of humility. And as is so often the case when we speak about something and we give a discourse on Master's teachings, when it's over, natural thought begins to come, oh, I should have said that, or I could have said that. And it was no different when this topic of humility that I was speaking about recently, and particularly in the light of a recent emphasis that we've been having on health throughout some of our activities, particularly in the Pune Center in Mumbai. And some of you even perhaps attended these seminars that we've been having on health. And I mention this because when we speak about that topic of humility, we emphasize that humility is misunderstood. What it is really is it's not being, making oneself inconspicuous, you might say. It's about self-forgetfulness. And the thought that occurred to me that I think perhaps I should have emphasized a little bit more, and I'd like to pick it up and speak a little bit further about it, is it's very difficult to forget about the little self, the ego self, as that's what we're saying here. It's very difficult to forget about the ego self if the ego self, that little self, is unhealthy. In other words, it's gone down the wrong course, you might say, and to get it to turn around and take a better course is something that is going to take energy and attention on our part. And it's like our physical health. Do you notice when you're feeling robust, you're feeling really healthy, everything is right with you, the body's working fine, you don't have to think about the body too much. You naturally tend to forget about it. Now, of course, you could say the muscle-bound person who's looking in the mirror all the time, he doesn't, I mean, that's a whole nother perspective, and that's not what I'm speaking. You might say that's taking physical health to the point of pride and self-awareness in the wrong way. But if we're generally healthy, we can let it go, you might say, go about our duties in life in a normal way. But when we're ill, we're very aware of the body. We're very aware of the self, you could say, in the sense of humility. When our ego is not in a good condition, it's suffering, you could say that we become quite aware of it. And suffering, you might say, if there's weakness in the character, or that weakness shows up in the fellow I was referencing of, looking in the mirror all the time, vanity, self-possession, pride. And then these sorts of things are signs of an unhealthy ego. But most of the time, you could say also, when it comes to some people thinking in terms of humility, there's this sense of, oh, to be humble is to have a weak ego and not be able to be self-assertive. And I sometimes get a little frustrated when I'm answering questions, because often when we talk about reining in the ego, people, it's always, yes, but, what about, and then, you're going to let people walk all over me and they're going to take advantage of me, and et cetera, et cetera. And that's never what we're meaning, but sometimes it's interpreted that way. And the aspect I wanted to address today is this sense that people have of reining in the ego self and being humble in the true sense of the word of self-forgetfulness is equated with this concept of self-confidence, or the lack thereof, of being somebody who, you could say, the thought is, well, if I'm retiring, I'm introverted because I don't have the ability to assert myself when it's appropriate to do so. That is not what we're speaking about. We're speaking about having self-confidence that is balanced and restrained, not because of shyness or not because of fearfulness or a lack of ability, but a sense of self-forgetfulness because we've transcended that self. And when it's appropriate, we use that ego self in a wholesome way. You could say, and this is the spirit, I mean, this is life. The life is often a razor's edge. You can go too far this way, you could go too far that way. And same thing when we're talking about transcendence of ego, which is the embodiment of what it means to make spiritual progress, we have to transcend a healthy ego. In other words, it's a gift we give to God. You bring something, you bring some, let's say you bring flowers to the altar, you're offering those flowers, symbol of our devotion. If the flowers are wilted and half dead, I mean, what kind of gift is that? You bring some nice fruit to the guru, and the guru, it's got worms in the fruit. That's hardly the appropriate gift. You want to give something that's bright and shiny and fresh, and that's ourselves. And so we have to be healthy, and especially when we're speaking about health, as I've mentioned, we have been generally in other programs. We want to give something healthy, and it's only because it's like this: if we want to be free of something, if it's an unhealthy state, we're not going to really be free of it. The body is going to force us to be attached to something that's unhealthy. And when we're really healthy, we're at a point where we tend to be free of it a little bit. It's lighter, it's easier to transcend. Or you could say it in this way: when you have the gunas, tamasic, rajasic, sattvic, we want to bring our character to the position of being sattvic, not so that we can revel in the pleasure of that or stand in the mirror in front of it and, oh, I'm pretty good. Yeah, I'm doing well. Not that, so that we bring it to a sattvic state. So it's a fresh flower. It's a good, nice, wholesome piece of fruit that we can then offer up, and we can let it go in that way. And I've noticed in my life, if I'm not good at something, a little task, for example, it sort of eats at me a little bit. I kind of say, yeah, I want to do it. Remember that story of Master who Swami was sitting there with him, and Master was playing with that spoon. He was hitting the spoon and making it flip over and trying to get it to land in a glass that was there, and it wouldn't land. And he just kept at it, till finally it landed in the glass. He says, I got it done. I did it. I got it done. He was determined to get that accomplishment there. And it's sort of like that. If you keep missing something, I say, oh, I want to get it done. Well, that's how it is with us too. And we want to perfect ourselves so that, not to be proud of it, but to be able to offer it up, and then we let it go. And so it is with our ego self. And so it is with this topic of humility, to give it up, but to be able to strengthen it, not for pride's sake, because what do they say? There's this: pride goeth before a fall, or as Master used to say, pride is the death of wisdom, because it's that glory in something that is not built upon a solid foundation, built upon sand. If you could say the ego is built on a shaky situation, and that's unhealthy in the long run. But we do have to give some attention to get it to that point of strength. And sometimes we do have to strengthen the little self. Now, when Paramahansa Yogananda went to America in 1920, in the 1920s, he, like everybody, we know this, he toured everywhere and was speaking continuously for those first 10 years. He was super busy. And he was continually busy, but then in an outward way of reaching out to these huge audiences. And he often spoke about health on all levels, physical, mental well-being. And he wrote one of his very best books. It's called um, uh, Scientific Healing Affirmations, which I recommend to you. You should have that on your spiritual library. And you can order one from Ananda Publications. Very small, not a big book, in which he basically emphasized that we should strengthen our sense of now the modern world, because we have the modern television gurus or the media gurus who want to build up your self-esteem. Well, Master anticipated that 100 years ago, and he came and he wanted to build people up to say, I'm healthy, I am well, I am strong. And in order to, the mind, of course, controls the body. So we have to start on the mental level and implant these thoughts of strength within ourselves. And of course, we have to make this ego sense. If it's weak, we have to make it strong. But of course, then we realize this for the purpose for that, make it strong so that we could offer it up. The children of God need to be have strength in their character. And I want to read one of these, one of my favorites actually. And I'd like you to actually just close your eyes and listen to this. I'm going to run it through 2 times, maybe even 3 if I choose. And I want you to implant these thoughts of masters in your mind. If you choose to just close your eyes, look up here at the point between the eyebrows as I read these words. I am brave. I am strong. Perfume of success thoughts blows in me, blows in me. I am cool. I am calm. I am sweet. I am kind. I am love and sympathy. I am charming and magnetic. I am pleased with all. I wipe away all tears and fears. I have no enemy. I am the friend of all. And once more, I am brave. I am strong. Perfume of success thoughts blows in me, blows in me. I am cool. I am calm. I am sweet. I am kind. I am love and sympathy. I am charming and magnetic. I am pleased with all. I wipe away all tears and fears. I have no enemy. I am the friend of all. Now, that sounds very assertive, isn't it? That sounds like the words of somebody who is supremely self-confident, or at least is summoning up the energy to be self-confident in order to face the world and do whatever is necessary in the world. And of course, a person looking at that, well, that's a very egotistical thing to do. Just I am this, I am that. But it's affirming a reality deeper. And this is at the base of when we use healing affirmations to affirm a deeper reality. Now, on the surface, it sounds like an egoic reality. And to a little bit degree, if that's necessary, yes, we make that ego strong. We make it balanced. We make it confident. We make it able to function as a tool for the higher self so that we can ultimately shed it. And until we have strength in that way, but it must be a strength that's balanced. Balanced, the world, we do not want to see in this world ourselves relating to it with a superiority complex, but similarly, we don't want to have an inferiority complex. In fact, we don't want to have any complexes at all. We want to, on a more deeper level, affirm that we are a child of God. But until we get there, we have to have that strength. And so this is, this is, you might say, the spiritual nature underneath those worldly endeavors of modern self-help gurus who just want to build up self-esteem. And you see it all the time. And I don't criticize it. I don't criticize it because it's aimed at getting people to a point of strength. The only thing, if I was to criticize, I would say, well, that's wonderful, but it's only the first step. The first step is to realize there is a higher power. And through strengthening the little self, we are putting ourselves in a position of removing those obstacles that allow a higher power to come in. And so you could say the key in all of this is to shift our preoccupation from ourselves to that higher power, or as an intermediary, to shift our attention away from ourselves to what it is that we are doing. And so let's just take this concept of self-confidence, which I wanted to address today, is how do we generate that in a good way, that self-confidence in a good way? And I think one of the keys here is to focus on not ourselves, of we as the doer, what we or who is doing or what is doing, this little I is doing, but the task at hand. What are we doing? And if you have, for example, you have I like to use the image of something that I think everybody has difficulty with. Most of us, I think, have difficulty with is, have you ever been in a stage play? You were in school and you had to be in a play. They would put on these theatrical productions, or in other situations, you're called upon to be an actor on a stage and you have no experience with it, but you're called on. I found every time I was asked to do that, that was challenging for me to get up there and make a fool of myself on the stage, playing some part. And for the poor actor, it comes out stilted. You don't relax, don't be natural. You don't have self-confidence in yourself as an actor on the stage. And isn't that something similar? What we're all on a stage. The life is a stage. We're actors on the stage, and we lack a certain self-confidence. We're stilted. And why are you stilted when you're playing, a character of whatever the play might be? You say, I'm not really this. I'm not that. I can't do this. I can't remember. You're thinking about yourself, and really the way to get over that, one of the techniques is you have to perfect that task, and you have to improve your talent. And whatever the talent might be, whatever the task is hand, get good at what you're doing. When you're good at what you're doing, you can put it aside and it doesn't create obstacles. Now, it may make you proud. That's another issue. And that's going, again, razor's edge, going too far in one direction. Oh, I'm proud of my acting now. And this is one of the dangers of acting. And I know some that, they're looking in the mirror quite a bit. But we're talking about the amateur here, the amateur doing the stage play for school. He just wants to get to the point where he can do the play well. And then he can go, I'm okay, now I'm not going to have to do that now. That's where we want to be. And so you have to improve what it is you're doing. Some people say, well, I don't want to be egoic, so I'm not going to try. I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to stand over to the side. That's a form of fear, not facing the task that is being asked of you. And it's a false sense of it's pride also, but in a different way. And it's a false modesty in that way. So you'll find that if you become good at something, most complexes tend to naturally dissolve themselves when we can be less focused on our own selves. And that's one way to get it, is to get competent at whatever it is you're doing, because it also forces you to focus on something outside of yourself. If you're a surgeon operating, you're very focused on your task. You're not thinking about, oh, was the nurse looking at me, or, is what's happening here around me. No, you have to be very focused on it. And something else happens here. When we focus on the task at hand, yes, we're not focusing on ourselves, but we're also, if we pay attention in the serving of what we're doing, we allow for a higher power to come into us in that way. Because it's like mathematics in a way. When we stop focusing on our little self, the door opens for something else to come in. And if we draw and invite a larger force of energy to flow through us, and this is what in the old days, artists would say they draw upon the muse, their artistic muse, their artistic inspiration. And this is what they're saying is there's an aspect of the superconsciousness that begins to flow through us if we remove that. And so you sort of say, okay, let's how do we, if I've convinced you, let's say, what do we do? Well, there's things you could do if you lack self-confidence, let's say. That's what we're trying to do. I've mentioned a couple already. Whatever you undertake, you're asked to do, like all of us, we're asked to take on leadership roles. Oh, I don't know, I can't do that. Public speaking, that's a good one. Oh God, I can't do that. Or any task that's life is, oh, I don't want to meet it because I don't think I can succeed. And that's lack of self-confidence to do that. And one of the simplest things, of course, and this is, Swami used to mention this, he said, just think, uh, uh, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst case that you can do that while still keeping an even mind or a peace of mind in yourself? What's gonna, can I do it? What's the worst case? Yeah, I can do it, and I can still keep my peace of mind. Don't depend. If outside conditions change and it's going to upset you, any sort of outer, which is an out being doing something strange, an outer task, if that's going to upset you, you're basically saying that you're dependent on everything, something outside of you being in such a state that only then can I be happy. Only then can I have my peace of mind. If that's your situation, you're in a precarious position. And what will happen is you start to build up walls around yourself to protect yourself from facing those challenges that are going to come in life. But life will not relent. If it sees a weakness in you, that you've got barriers up around yourself, it's going to continually start probing those weak points. So why not just say, oh, let's get it over with. I'm going to face it. And so what's the worst that can happen, really? Well, we're going to if we're the actor here, we're going to make a fool of ourselves. Well, everybody knows, we're not professionals. We're amateurs trying to do our best. And so consequently say, yes, I'm just up here, and everybody knows that. Go to a child, school play, your child is 8 years old and they're up there playing, the warrior or playing the princess, and they're not very good, but everybody, appreciates them and say yes. And even when they make big mistakes, people don't laugh at the kids. That wouldn't be the right thing to do. We give them encouragement. Life is like that. So what's the worst thing that can happen? You're going to make a fool of yourself. Well, we're fools already, actually. Why hide it? So anyway, just have that courage. And I think we have to also, another thing is remember this: suffering comes when we hope that things were other than they are. And if life is calling on us, circumstances, our karma, the situation, we've been at our job, we've been asked, we've been given an assignment. It's no good to start saying, well, I can't do it. I can't do it. You say, well, yeah, I got my assignment. That's what is. I got to figure out how to do this. And so accept the task at hand and don't throw it out, because if you don't face what's come to you, you're eventually it's going to be suffering. So then I've said this one already, do it well. That was one of Swami Kriyananda's mottos. He had, in that vein, he had two. He said, do it now and do it well. That's, I've found this to be true. I've been in the supervisor position, and I've been in the opposite, the one being supervised. In Swami's case, he would say, do it now. And he expected me or anybody to just get up and take that literally right now, as immediately. And I've found so many times you ask somebody, and you're a supervisor and you have an employee or staff, I really need this done. Please go and do it. A couple hours later, what'd you do? Well, I was going to do it tomorrow when I had free time. Those kinds of staff just drive you crazy. Anyway, and for our own sake, if we want to gain self-confidence, do it now, do it well, whatever it is that's ahead of us, that's stimulating that sense of lack of self-confidence. And I guess you could say, in that vein, one thing to do is to visualize, if necessary, you're doing it well. Visualize your sense getting up on that stage and, playing the hero, playing Arjuna in the Mahabharata, or playing Lakshman, or whatever it is that you've been called on to do. You can do it, just visualize, attune yourself to the role that you're being asked to play. I am brave. I am strong. Perfume of success thoughts flow through me, flow through me. Take that and you make yourself into that and strengthen that self. So then when you're on the stage acting, if you're thinking about the audience looking at you, that's so, you're going to get nervous. And if you're an amateur like I am, but if you concentrate on your role that you're playing, I'm going to do this, the audience tends to forget about it. The lights, if you're performing in front of lights, you look out, you can't see the audience. All you do is see the light. And you might think of it that way. Just look at, see light, think of your role that you have to play. And remember, you can always pray. Oh, and that's coming back to this question of opening ourselves to something. But I think it's better, don't pray for success. Oh, God, make me successful in here. Because then you're putting the burden on God, which is maybe not a bad thing to do, but why not say, God, give me understanding. May I have the tools to be successful as your instrument, as your servant. Help me in that way. You don't have to ask God to do it for you, because then you can retire into the corner and, God is your, what do they call the standby actor if you're not there? Well, no, you're there. But ask for strength and allow that inspiration to come through you and whatever. Then you find that although you may not be able to do anything, you say, well, I'm just a fake, I'm a phony, I'm a fool, I can't do this. Maybe that's true. But remember, God can do anything. And if you open yourself and allow that and focus on the task at hand, not on what people are going to think or the results. And isn't this really Nishkam Karma? Doing your very, very best and not caring so much about the results. And, and then of course, keeping it all in balance, not being prideful and going overboard with it to the other degree. And I think also too, is Swami used to say this about public speaking, because it's a common thing. He would say, if you're a teacher, if you're thinking about how people are thinking of you, you're missing the point. Think about the needs of your audience or the task at hand. Again, this is coming back at it from a different direction. Think about what needs to be done, the audience, what is the supervisor asking me to do, their needs that I'm serving. And in a sense, you're serving rather than performing, with I am the doer. Eventually, of course, we want to take it to a higher level, even a higher level than that, and so that we're uh, drawing always, because in doing these classes, we always want to come back that we're approaching this from the perspective of the devotee on the spiritual path. I'm an actor in this play, but God's the director. He's the screenwriter. And in the end, probably he's the actor too, through me. I'm fulfilling this at God's behest. And so do it well, and I'll do it now. And as you do in that consciousness of taking on whatever you're doing in life, you begin to forget the little self. And it's just God's self in there. And then so as you can act and you can think, Lord, I am thine, be thou mine. Lord, I am thine, be thou mine. Now, I want to conclude by just taking this one step further. And this applies also to our meditation as well, in the sense that these thoughts of failure, I can't do this, this is hard, I'm trying to, and I'm not making success, who am I? All of these sense of weakness is, it's going to put up blockages. We have to have this success thoughts, that master said, I am cool, I am calm, I am, you could say I'm the Prince of Peace, and as the Prince, whatever the King has is mine. I am thy child, Lord, receive me. You must come to me. Meditating and praying in this way. And this is this sense of self-forgetfulness. You could also take it and think of it as, I can't forget the self, because I have this ego. But what we can do is we can offer the self. And I think good meditation, to going deep into it, is a process of self-offering. And I'd like to offer you a little tip in meditation of when you're meditating, what to do. And on Saturday last, we do a group meditation on Saturday morning, and we used a variation of this. But I'm going to vary what we shared at that last meditation. Some of you may have been with us. We were concentrating on the heart, and we were using the breath, but rather in this case, we're a variation of the Hong Sa technique, just in this way. When you're meditating, your eyes are closed, you're upward directed. As the breath comes in, feel yourself, Lord, I am thine. Or you could just say, thinking, Lord, I am thine. And feel an upwelling of inspiration and aspiration and offering. I am thine. And as you exhale, be thou mine. In other words, relaxation in God's blessings. I am thine, be thou mine. And feel this upward movement in the heart. There's an upwelling of feeling in the heart and a descent of blessings downward as you exhale in the heart. I am thine, be thou mine. And feel it. Try to get that upward and then I don't say downward, I say relaxation. So you could say offering and relaxing inward. I am thine, be thou mine. If you do this, you'll find that you'll begin to awaken and open that heart. And I think if we can then expand this, you might say, into our daily life, our self-offering, I am thine, Lord, be thou mine. Confidence will grow. How can it be otherwise? If we feel God working through us, of course, we're going to feel confident, because how can we fail if God's presence is within us? And so I'd like to conclude with that. And then I'm going to go, I see I have a question over here. I'm going to say how not to lose self-esteem and to gain confidence in a hostile environment, especially if your seniors and supervisors are the cause. Well, I hope I've answered that. But remember, I would just point out this last one. The supervisors are not the cause. They're just the instrument. The fact that you're losing confidence, they're stimulating that. Yes, I agree. They're stimulating, but don't put the blame on them. It's a challenge, it's an opportunity for you. That's the problem, you might say. The question is, where's the solution? The solution is in you, and you have to strengthen that self-esteem, you might say. But again, remember that self-esteem is, we have to strengthen ourselves so that we can offer that up and we gain confidence. And so I think this is what I'm saying here is this is I hope I've offered some solutions to for you to practice. And it takes practice. Doesn't come overnight. It doesn't come with one. But when you take your attention away from this little self, bring in the larger self, but strengthen that little self also at the same time so that it can take the blows. You know, other people, supervisors, they do what they do, and life is like that. If it's not this one, it's going to be the next. You'd say, I'm getting rid of this job, I'll get a better one. Yes, good. Maybe you'd have to do that sometimes. But you find that the force that's there that is being represented by those unpleasant supervisors, that's what we're after, not that particular person. It's just manifesting through that instrument. So, and you're aware of it, and of course, you're suffering from it because you're conditioned by his behavior. You're conditioned to be subject to his behavior, and I don't fault you for that, because this is the problem and we face in life. What I'm doing is trying to inspire you to overcome it and do better and strengthen yourself so that that condition no longer limits you and causes you suffering. So joy to you all, and I'll see you again, I hope, next Monday.